Keir Starmer should bring in the military to stop the invasion of Britain's borders by illegal immigrants. Just look at what Donald Trump is doing. US Marines have secured the southern border and a US Navy destroyer is patrolling the waters where illegals in small boats have been trying to break into America. Now, he's very publicly deported people. And he's stepped up the rhetoric.
Border immediately halted all entry of illegal border crossers, of which there were many, and began promptly returning the illegal trespassers back to the place from which they came.
Crucially, he threatened countries like Mexico with tariffs if they didn't stop illegal immigration, which forced them to use their own troops to police their own border. And the Trump administration has openly mocked people who refuse to be deported.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
Well, he's wrong. He's going back to Haiti. I tell him that.
He is. Anyway, what's happened? Illegal crossings are now down 82% at the southern border. That's the news of today. 82% drop in illegal crossings at the southern border. The number of people trying to reach the United States by crossing the Darien Gap is down 99%. He's halted asylum applications. Deterrents work. 2.5 months or so of Trump and America is no longer being invaded. Here in Britain, we were told this from the Tories.
We're very clear we want to stop the boats.
Vote Conservative so we can stop the boats. To keep my promise to you, to stop the boats.
We were told this by Labour.
He promised that he would stop the boats this year.
I think the way to stop the boats is to smash the criminal gangs.
People crossing in small boats across the channel. We have to stop that.
So where are we today? The same day that it's announced in the United States, 82% fewer illegal crossings. As of today, right here in Britain, channel crossings are up 25% on the previous year. We have more migrant hotels under Labour. A Palestinian who called for all Jews to be killed before eventually being arrested following public backlash managed to get into Britain. A suspected people smuggler is currently living in a 4-star hotel in Kent. People from 70 different countries have broken into Britain in the last few years. Thousands of people are coming here on skilled worker visas and then, just shock horror, claiming asylum. Thousands of illegals are working in the black economy, either in vape shops or washing cars. We are paying France hundreds of millions of pounds to essentially not stop the boats. Look, here's the difference. President Trump's America. Bring in the military, threaten tariffs, don't bother with international courts, remove the incentives and stop processing any asylum claims. And the illegals stop coming. Keir Starmer's Britain. Come on in. We'll pay for your hotel or your social housing, your phone, your pocket money, driving lessons, medical bills, legal costs. We'll educate your kids for free. You can probably work for Deliveroo or a car wash, depending on whatever floats your boat. Donald Trump is proving that deterrents work. Britain currently has no deterrent. Let's get thoughts from our panel this evening. Daily Express columnist Carol Malone. We've got journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth and, of course, the former chairman of the Tory party, Sir Jake Berry. Carol, I'll throw it over to you. I mean, this is it not, I suppose, quite an obvious indication that deterrents do work?
Completely. We know they do. You know, what Trump is doing, he's not just chucking them out, he's making deterrents for them to stop coming in. You know, already he's got mass deportations and arrests happening. He's got troops on Mexican border. He's going to put more there. He's got, he's got so much going on. He's using military planes to get them out of the country. It's incredible what he's doing. And he's talking tough. And they're not coming. You mentioned that figure of 80%. 4,000, something like 4,800 came, where previously 2 years before it had been 225,000 came. So yes, deterrents work. And, you know, he's using his border patrol force, whatever it's called out there, to stop them coming in. We're using our border patrol as a taxi service. It is astonishing.
There's all this talk about conscription, right? And I'm seeing a load of articles from people who I think are actually quite patriotic, who are saying they wouldn't want to fight in the military for Keir Starmer. I guarantee you they do a bit of national service in the Channel, Jake. Well,
Well, to stop people coming in. Well, look, what we've learned from these figures is that, hand-wringing, the politics of the left, whether that be the Conservative left or the Labour left, do not work. We now know what works. It's get tough, put the disincentives in place, make sure you use your military, grab people as soon as they come in the country and send them somewhere else, in Trump's case to the threat of going to Guantanamo Bay. That stops people invading our country. That is what the British public should be calling on Keir Starmer to do. He said he had a plan to smash the gangs. Sorry, that's not enough. You need to go beyond that. Well, you need to have all those disincentives in place.
We know what works. We know what works. It's Marines at the border and it's the Navy in the Channel, no?
Well, let's just put this in context. The first Trump term had the lowest deportation rate since 2008. Barack Obama deported far more in both his terms.
How many do you think
Joe Biden deported more in his term, and the deportation rate is about the same as Biden's so far.
How do you think? Well,
they stopped coming, though.
He's only been in for a few weeks. Biden did 1.4 in his first term. Obama did 2.6 in his first term. At this rate,
a big difference.
At this rate, but let's say if he carries on at this rate, by the end of the year, they'll be back to 1967 rates of coming in, which would be absolutely astonishing. It's, a lot of these, what he's doing is very unpalatable to the left, both here and in America. But you have to be unpalatable because a lot of people, this country is famed for its compassion and its caring, but it's been taking the mick out of now, and we have to stop that. People are abusing us. We're having hordes of young people from sub-Saharan Africa who come here because they want a better life. I don't blame them, but we can't let them in. It's not our job to give them a better life.
No, I was just going to say, the American border is ridiculous, the border at the southern border, because, well, just to point out, he didn't build a wall and Mexico didn't pay for it last time, and there still isn't a complete wall, which is absolutely insane.
82% down on land crossings and 99% down.
And Mexico's paying for the flights, as is Colombia, to deport people. Being tough works, and it's all very well, Britain is not tough. Why do people build themselves up in France, wait in Calais to come to Britain? It's because we are far more generous when it comes to giving people benefits, housing, access to healthcare, even than the French. France is a moderately good country to live in, I'm sure, but immigrants don't want to stay there. Immigrants don't want to stay there because they do not get the free ride they get in Britain.
Fine, but I'll put this to you. Trump had one term. Benjamin points out that the deportations probably weren't high enough and didn't do everything.
They were lower than the Democrats.
Fine. But he's got back in, right? And he's actually doing what he told the voters he was going to do. The Tories didn't do that. Do you think maybe you should have done things like... If Sajid Javid had turned the first boat back, we wouldn't be here, would we?
Well, who knows if that would have been the case, but we should have been tougher, and that's why I've consistently called for Britain to pull out of the ECHR, both when I was a government minister and a backbench Conservative MP, because Britain has to be able to control her own destiny. And if you believe for 1 second that Keir Starmer, a multi-millionaire who's made his millions from being a human rights lawyer, with his Attorney General, one of the champions of every cause that's against Britain, is going to rip up the ECHR in favour of delivering what the British people really want, then I'm sure you believe in fairies.
Trump has proved one very important thing, that securing your borders is easy if you have the will to do it.
Yeah, correct.
Keir Starmer does not have the will to do it, and that's going to be the problem.
I want to know what you were thinking at home, or if you're listening on your radio or whatever. Get in touch, OK? Should we put the Navy in the Channel? Would you back it if Keir Starmer did what Trump has just done, which is use his Navy and use his military to police the border? Benjamin, do you think our military would do it? Because this has been one of the arguments against it, which has been like, there's no way the Navy would want to tow the boats back to France. They wouldn't want to do that. Of course, I think they would. If they don't, they shouldn't be in the flipping Navy, should they?
Well, it's not an option to tow the boats to France because France won't take them. And because we chose to leave the European Union, it is much harder to get those agreements. They don't exist as they automatically did in the EU. That was our choice. That's why these numbers have gone up.
Agreement with Mexico. What he did was he said, we're going to absolutely hammer you.
Well, hang on. Even if you tow them back to France and then France says no, then they'll just come back to the UK. All you're doing is increasing the cost, increasing the chaos. Look, one of the reasons there's more people in the hotels today is because the rate of processing and refusing asylum applications is double what it was a year ago, and now there's been a rise in appeals.
Going home in that case.
The backlog has gone up.
Correct.
Yes, because there's a rise in appeals. The number of appeals has gone from 5,000 to 42,000.
So what would Trump do in this situation? Trump was
to abolish
saying
the appeal.
you can't appeal 3, 4, 5 times. The Nigerian lady who ultimately joined a terrorist group, it was her 8th appeal.
Yeah.
Trump wouldn't let that happen, would he?
Of course he wouldn't. And actually, what I do agree with Ben is you cannot turn these boats around in the Channel. That shouldn't be the job of the British Navy. Number one, they shouldn't get in the Channel in the first place because we're paying the French hundreds of millions to stop them on the beaches. Seems to me a good sort of Stanley knife could slash some of these dinghies, stop them coming over. But number two, the point at which...
Sorry, are you saying that migrants should drown? Because that's what would happen if you did that.
French police,
no, just explain what you just said.
OK, well, let me then. We're saying if the French police see a dinghy on the beach about to leave to bring someone over to the UK, they should slash
I'm sure they do that.
They don't.
They don't really.
But actually, the place we should be turning them round is as soon as their feet touch British soil, they should be turned around, sent somewhere else, whether it's the Chagos Islands, Diego Garcia, Rwanda, wherever it is, turn them round, because that's what Trump is doing. He's not turning people around on the border.
I've
He's turning them round as soon as they arrive in America, and that is the disincentive that's seen this 80% fall. And we could do it here in Britain.
Answer me this. What is the deterrent under this Labour government to not come here illegally? What is the deterrent?
Well, first of all, Rwanda wasn't a deterrent. Because
what's this?
Well,
it never happened.
Just to point out,
Rwanda never happened. What are you talking about?
Well, they spent long enough talking about it.
Labour stopped it at every turn, and then it went to the Lords, and they stopped it there. Labour didn't let this happen. If they had, it would have worked.
No, nonsense. We spent hundreds of millions of pounds, and then the only about 5 migrants that left because we paid them $3,000 each.
Deterrent now?
But, you know,
there isn't one.
There isn't one.
The deterrent is saying that you're not going to be able to get a life here if you're not a real migrant. If you're not a real refugee,
that's not a problem.
That's the real.
But there was a law, Ben. There was a law that said if you enter the country illegally, you won't get asylum. The Labour Party reversed that law.
But
it was one of the first things they did.
But these people aren't entering illegally if they are genuine refugees. And many of these countries don't have a real route to get into the country, as a former Tory MP pointed out.
Why don't they get a Ryanair flight from Albania for 50 quid rather than spending $5,000 to cross the Channel? Of course they're entering illegally.
No one wants a Ryanair flight.
I just thought it's worth pointing out, OK? Today, the news, 82% land crossings down in the southern border, 99% down on the Darien Gap, up here, up, up, up. Contrast, isn't it?